Welcome to the Modern Husbands podcast. We're a combination of Dr. Bruce Ross, Christian Sherrill, and Brian Page, host national experts who share winning ideas to manage money and the home as a team. I'm Brian Page, founder of Modern Husbands. Sometimes our listeners want more support than a podcast can give, individual or couple support, which I provide as a certified financial therapist, accredited financial counselor, and fair play facilitator. Details can be found at modernhusbands.com. Today, we welcome Dr. Megan Ford and Dr. Christine Hargrove. Dr. Ford is the University of Georgia Director of the Love and Money Center, certified financial therapist, and licensed and marriage therapist. Dr. Hargrove is the Love and Money Center Assistant Director, a clinical assistant professor at UGA, certified financial therapist, and licensed and marriage therapist. For today's episode, Dr. Ford and Dr. Hargrove share research on financial conflict, the emotional burden of day-to-day money management, and how roles like bean counter shape stress within relationships. The conversation also offers practical research-backed strategies for couples and neurodivergent individuals to manage money with greater awareness, compassion, and teamwork. Enjoy the show. Dr. Hargrove and Dr. Ford, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thrilled to be here.
Unfortunately, Christian can't make it and Dr. Ross can't make it. Dr. Ross is still getting over the beating that Georgia gave Kentucky in football last fall. So his recovery period for that's a little long.
Licking his wounds, yeah.
I can't wait to talk to you all about the Love and Money Institute, the work that you're doing there and how it relates to, our listeners and how they can apply it into their daily lives. So I want to jump straight into this. And as we work through this, just feel free to answer and we can take turns. It's a big conversation. So for our listeners, just imagine it's a group of three friends sitting around talking about the Love and Money Center and how their work can influence and improve your lives. So let's start with explaining what you do at the Love and Money Center.
Yeah. Christine, you want to kick it off and I'll fill in?
Sure. So we probably the thing that people know us the most for is the services we provide. So we provide direct client services in individual, couple, and family therapy services, and we also provide financial planning and coaching services. These are all either free or extremely low cost. That's one of the benefits of being connected to a university like UGA, is that we are able to provide a really high level of service and give back to the community through being able to provide a level of intentionality and training and supervision that accompanies all the services that clients receive. So our couple and family therapists are master's level and doctoral level therapists. They're under supervision, and our financial planning and coaching services are delivered by financial planning undergrad, usually the best of the upper undergrads, juniors and seniors, and then mostly the master's and doctoral level students, as well as students in the graduate certificate program in behavioral financial planning and financial therapy. So expert supervision, lots of video reviews. Students learn very fast how to deliver effective and compassionate client services. But we also do more. So for a long time, we were not just a clinic, but a clinic, and we've now expanded. So we are a center. So a clinic versus a center, those are different things in an academic environment. So we also do research. We, of course, do training, but we are moving into providing trainings, presentations, et cetera, to other professionals who are outside of our center. So not just students, but directly pouring into the professional fields that our students are going into. And we do a lot of community outreach, both to local nonprofits. We work with our local kind of colleagues in the fields to provide referrals. We do a lot of public presentations and public-oriented presentations. And we have a faculty affiliates program, so we are also serving the faculty who are in all of these different areas, because a lot of times in the university environment, it's a big pond. And so, people can be doing very similar things, but using different words. And so they're asking similar questions. They are looking for ways to connect, but they don't even know that each other is working on maybe similar or adjacent issues. And so we are that hub where we provide that space for all the different faculty affiliates to connect, to work on projects together. We sort of provide some of that administrative work and overhead, and we kind of stay connected to everybody. We also have an undergraduate internship program in couple and family therapy. So that's for undergraduates who are considering whether they might want to be in the mental health field themselves. And we do a lot of media. Yeah, we do a lot of like promoting the awareness. And yeah, I think you do too. Like this is where it feels like this feels so obvious to those of us who are in it. But money, mental health, relational health, these are not separate things in real life. So we're really trying to help the general public be able to name it and find resources for it.
Yeah. Like as you listed, I'm like, this is incredible. We do so much. I love kind of like playing it back, right? And thinking about all of the impact and the cool things that we've got going on. I think that was a great summary. And I would just tie it together by saying, the UGA Love and Money Center is an interdisciplinary unit of the College of Family and Consumer Sciences here. And we're the premier training center and really the premier center for promoting this crossover of relational and financial well-being for all. And so that's really where we've planted our flag and where we want to contribute to the world.
And you are contributing not only directly, but also, as you said, through the world, because I've used both of your research in my work. So like, as I'm reading through it, I'm like, oh, I know these superstars. They're friends of mine. So we're gonna take a little sidetrack here. Can you tell folks, I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Ford, about the Ford Financial, tell me if I got this wrong or right or wrong, Ford Financial Empowerment Model. Is that right?
Yeah.
Named after you, and it's a big deal. It's in all like the clinical textbooks, and like, wait a second, this is Megan. All right, go ahead.
I think that was my younger, like more vain self, maybe coming through a little bit.
I love it.
Yeah, the Ford Financial Empowerment Model was sort of like the first attempt to create an evidence-based model that linked together several of the theoretical orientations and the models that I was using in my training as a couple and family therapy student. So that work actually emerged out of my graduate training at that time and my work, my early work with Dr. Christy Archuleta at Kansas State University. So yeah, that was a wonderful project, and I'd love to be able to take that further actually and look at that again and see how maybe that model has morphed and evolved over time. So that's one of the things like on the to-do list is to think through that a bit more now that it's many years later.
All right, Dr. Hargrove, I want you to share a little bit about your research about how bean counters are impacted psychologically, and then tie that, well, I guess it would be different research on your work around helping people who are neurodivergent.
Oh, that's an interesting crossover. Okay, so that's going on my list for things that I want to do. All right, so the breadwinners versus bean counters. So this was a quantitative analysis of research actually collected here. So from our clinical data, we have a lot of different questions in there. And one of the questions, I was taking a look at it. This was a few years ago. I was taking a look at it. And there were some questions that I felt like, man, this really lines up. So plugging into financial roles within couples. So plenty of research on the idea that couples will kind of divide and conquer or maybe cope together. But, sometimes there's like the money manager. Sometimes there's the person who's like, I earn the income. We pulled out two typical, like well-known financial roles. So the breadwinner is the primary income earner. So, and we just went with like a simple majority, and we analyzed the stats every which way to make sure it was solid. And we also looked at bean counting, which we defined as the day-to-day financial management. And that's actually important because there is research that suggests that like the CFO of the family, as in like the long-term retirement planning, is not always and often isn't the same person as the day-to-day financial management. So this was the day-to-day financial management. So we got to...
Which I need to add, those are two very different ways of money management tasks because the CFO, if done properly, they're not doing very much work at all. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
this internal study done by Fidelity where they looked at investment returns over a decade to see who did the best. And it was two types of people. One, people that just lost their account and forgot about it and couldn't trade, because we know the more frequently you're looking at investment account balances, the more likely you are to act impulsively and trade. And the other ones were dead people. So dead people outperform
Gosh.
the living.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, back to like why there's far more stress with bean counting than with the CFO.
Yeah. So there is existing research that suggests that it's the daily household management versus the CFO that's really associated with depression, poor health outcomes, that kind of stuff. So what we wanted to look at, there was a really cool question that was asking about the perception of kind of like how much of the couple financial stress, like the household financial stress, do you carry? Right. So that's this idea, that was something that our paper, so Megan and Christy Archuleta and I worked on this together. So that was an idea that our paper really put into the world, which I felt like I couldn't believe that nobody else had already talked about this. So I'm still waiting to hear, like, somebody else did this, but I read everything that I could find about, instead of measuring financial stress solely on the individual level, this idea that couples face household financial stress, especially couples when they pool their money, when they, share expenses, share income, that there's also, like, we now have a big medical bill to pay, or we now have rent to pay, and that is the shouldering of the stress. The stress is actually something that is a dyadic or couple level stressor, not just an individual experience of stress. So we looked at all these different couple coping models and pulled in stuff. But what we found, really, every way that we ran the data, because I was like, this can't be this solid, but like it was that even in instances where someone was both the primary earner, the breadwinner, and the bean counter, it didn't matter. It was the bean counting specifically that was associated with feeling like you shoulder the majority of the couple financial stress. And
did
that matters.
socioeconomics impact that?
What do you mean?
So is that the case with high income earners also, or is it?
Yeah, we controlled for income, we controlled for gender, we controlled like everything that we could find. We dropped any variable that didn't matter because,
Wow.
So like we looked at it every which way, and it was so consistent that the bean counters really felt like I'm shouldering most of this. So that it's really important, I think, for a lot of both, people on the mental health or coaching side, people on the financial side, and I would actually argue sort of people who are generally helping professionals and frankly, like couples who are in a couple relationship, that there is this invisible emotional burden of the mental load of the daily financial management. And it doesn't mean that there's automatically resentment there. But someone can be 50-50 on the decision making. But if their partner is the person who's really having to actually go and make sure the bills are paid, their partner probably feels like, yeah, we're 50-50 on the decision making and maybe considering what's coming up. But I'm the one who kind of, takes the bullets for the team. Like, I'm the one who's really absorbing the stress for both of us. So like the level of stress that I feel about our money is unlikely to be the same that you feel. And so that self-perception versus how we see one another is really key for couples having this conversation. I think that a lot of couples, when they try to have the conversation about doing money together as a team, it's fine if one person is the primary bill payer, day-to-day money manager. Like, there's all kinds of reasons for why that is the case. It's not a problem. But to be able to hear that someone kind of naturally or automatically feels that they are also shouldering the majority of the financial stress isn't necessarily the result of resentment or taking one another for granted. It really is more associated with the role of bean counting than it is any particular personality characteristics or something that somebody's done wrong. Like, it's just linked to the role of bean counting.
Yeah, sort of depersonalizes it a little bit, and maybe then offers more space to not automatically assume that it's coming from, personal place. It really is just the function of the role.
Yeah, and Dr. Hargrove, as you mentioned, there's the mental load, right? But that's a more difficult thing to deal with, according to Dr. Wayne's research, and this is on managing the home, is the emotional labor that comes with it. And there's emotional labor that comes with constantly seeing money leaving your accounts, particularly if you're like a tightwad. Like
That's the clinical term.
It is, yes, a tightwad. Dr. Scott Rick came up with this. You guys have read that, right? Yeah. So it's tightwad, somebody who is not just frugal, but they actually experience physical pain when they spend money. And I do actually struggle with that. And my wife and I, as an example, we're moving to Midtown, and she would like a new couch, as most people would. And we went couch shopping, and yeah, I got a massive headache. Like it was awful. It was awful. So anyhow, I want to get back to the ADHD research in a little bit, but I want to dive, before we do that, into the history behind the Love and Money Center. Dr. Ford, can you take that?
Yes. So the Love and Money Center has gone through a couple of iterations over its history. So the clinic itself was first established as part of the marriage and family therapy program in the E's here at the University of Georgia. I know. So it's really like structurally, physically, this clinic that serves the community in a lot of different ways has been around for a really long time. And so first iteration, McFall, marriage and family therapy clinic, serving the community and kind of bringing those wonderful services out into the world, and also training therapists at that time. The second iteration was the Aspire Clinic. The Aspire Clinic grew out of a collective faculty effort in the College of Family and Consumer Sciences post the Great Recession. What was happening in the clinical environment at that time was that students were saying to their faculty supervisors, we're seeing so many stressed couples and families, and it's economically based. There's so many stressors that are walking through the door that involve money. And so what happened was, faculty started talking, they started thinking about like, how could we deliver more of a holistic model to ensure that we're really solving some of these issues that we're seeing more efficiently and effectively, and maybe also cross-training folks. And so we had services, of course, in the therapy area, the financial planning area, nutrition, as well as law, and initially home design as well. So we were kind of like this really like super holistic model, which was great. And we were able to cast a wide net in doing so. And then I think the third iteration really just was born out of the desire to really find our footing in a place where we know that we are experts. Many of the faculty at the University of Georgia are experts in this crossover space of financial planning and therapy and financial therapy. We have some of the biggest names in financial therapy at the University of Georgia and affiliated with the Love and Money Center. And so that was big. We're like, we should really lean into this. There's nothing wrong with the holistic model and what the Aspire Clinic is doing, but let's really refine what it is that we know we are good at. And just, fully kind of like lean into that. And so then the Love and Money Center was born after kind of a lot of thinking about how do we want to show like how we are visible and how people can connect to who we are and what we do. Our previous names were probably not something that would attract as much attention or give you immediate recognition about who we are and what we do. And the Love and Money Center is not really an academic type name, but we think that that's actually a strength, because if we are positioned to have the community find us and help the community, we want them to have that recognition about who we are and what we do pretty immediately in our name. And so that's where we're at today. And like we described, we have leaned into that intersectional space where therapy and financial planning services coexist. We can cross-train students and do this really, really wonderful research that doesn't exist in any other place or space.
And your services are primarily for faculty and students, correct?
Actually, no, they're really broad. So because
Okay.
we exist at the University of Georgia, we offer services to students, staff, and faculty, and that's pretty convenient for them, right? Because we're on campus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, across the state, and more broadly across kind of like we're going outside of the borders to where we're able to, and we serve through virtual services as well as in-person services. So our reach is actually pretty widespread, which
Yeah, it's
we
the
think,
general public.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. Listeners have told us that they love the ideas we share on our podcast to manage money in the home as a team, but want more help than one episode can provide. That's why I'm excited to announce On the Same Page Consulting for corporations, couples, and individuals. Visit modernhusbands.com and click Our Services at the top of the page to learn more about how I can help you or your employees manage money in the home as a team. Again, that's modernhusbands.com. Now back to the show. And how do your students benefit from these services?
Mm.
So many ways. I think so providing services, just the kind of the bare minimum. So in any like couple and family therapy or MFT training program, there's a certain number of hours you have to attain. And, of course, there are a lot of different programs, and sometimes you have to go find your own internships. In our case, we have something right here on campus that we have like everything's up and running. We have a wait list. Like if you show up and you've been trained and you're ready to go, like we will start booking clients to you. So it is really nice to have that in-house. And so that's the thing, started in the 80s of just having this site right here that's well run. And then sort of similarly for the financial planning students. So they also have to have a certain number of hours to qualify for the CFP designation. And so the hours of experiential client services, the experiential learning, they count as CFP eligible hours. But I think that there's another level of, I think, clinical and professional excellence. So, you could go to a lot of places and just sort of provide some services, but if the supervision isn't there, and if the supervision doesn't have the tools that it needs to be really good, then providing services, like you can learn how to do something very, very wrong. And if you never get corrected, you're going to do it the wrong way for a very long time and you're not going to be very good at it, right? So, our site here, we have like the highest technology set up. We have all the rooms have the video cameras and the microphones, and everybody goes and marks up their video later, and their supervisors can log in and mark it up, and that's all connected to the accreditation outcomes. So we have this like really tight feedback loop, and that really matters. And like the best pedagogical methods involve very quick feedback, very specific feedback, so that people can hold on to their strengths and address the areas that they need to address, like before they even go in and see the client again, about what questions should I have asked? What are opportunities to lean in? How would I tell if the client really wasn't particularly comfortable talking about this? What would have been another way that I could have maybe given that same feedback to the client? How could I have noticed the way that they were responding to me? So in that system, in that sort of supervisory relationship, which they have on both the financial planning side and on the couple and family therapy side, and that's a very intense process. And so that's something that is I've been at a lot of internships, and I've done this in a lot of places, and that level of supervision as well as the technology that makes it just turnkey is really unusual. And I think finally, being able to be in an environment where everybody's rubbing shoulders with everybody else. So we've been really intentional on how this is set up, how we work as a team, how our paperwork is set up. So not only can folks learn from people in other disciplines in terms of being able to be aware of what's going on with each other's clients. Of course, we still maintain as much confidentiality as we can, but they can kind of pick each other's brains about, hey, I've got one thing. I always have the question of, I've got a client with ADHD, but I'm a financial planner. So is there anything that I could do, not as a mental health professional, to be more effective in my work with these clients? So that's an example. But also when it's appropriate and useful to the client's outcomes, they can actually work together. So the financial planning student and the therapist, if they're working with the same client, and this is something where it might benefit to have both professionals or student professionals in the same room with the client to have some structured conversations around the things that the client's working on, they can just be in the same room and work together as a collaborative team.
I love it.
And I think, yeah, we're sort of like creating this new skill set for both types of emerging professionals. These emerging professionals working in the Love and Money Center will automatically now have a new lens that they are wearing when they are inevitably go out into the world to start their own careers. Those financial planning students that have come through this process, they will be tuned in and they will know more communication skills. They will have more competencies in how to address some of these things. They will have a robust toolbox, having gained some exposure and rubbed shoulders with the couple and family therapy students. And same on the couple and family therapy side, these students who may have been like me and been complete money avoiders and not wanted to even touch that topic, 10-foot pole, will really start to desensitize themselves a little bit to that territory, that area, and begin to see oh, maybe that's not as scary as I thought. And it's actually really essential that I am dialed in to that topic area, because it can really benefit me to not only be tuned in, but to have some tools to be able to either refer, collaborate, or address myself. So we're just creating this new level of emerging professional here. And I think that that's something that the world needs. I'm biased, but I do think that.
I agree. And underneath all that, I just keep thinking, wow, what a culture of curiosity and teamwork, spirited people working together. I can only imagine the excitement that you two must have working in that type of environment, because
Sure.
as you're educators, right? And educators love to learn. And that's, for me, if I'm working there, that would be probably one of my favorite benefits would be to be situated where I can learn from the very best at all times and know where to turn for tough questions, or just simply things that I've never experienced and could use some insight on. Which leads me to my next question about the interesting research that either you're working on now or that you're coming out with soon. So I'll start with you, Dr. Ford, and then Dr. Hargrove, you have to share your ADHD work.
Yeah, I mean, we're full of ideas, and we have our faculty affiliates. So affiliated faculty in the financial planning program here and in the human development and family sciences department and area. They are also kind of on the research team, and we're looking for opportunities to do some really cool things and cross over with them. But for me in particular, I'm looking to take my research in the development of the couple financial conflict scale that I created. I'm looking to take that a little bit further and just kind of solidify that instrument, that measurement instrument, as something that can be just a tool that mental health professionals use, financial professionals use, to really sort of screen couples that they might be working with about the level of financial conflict that exists in the dynamic.
That would be useful.
And how serious that is. Are we looking at something that is within kind of my scope of understanding and being able to address as a professional? Or am I getting the signals that through administering an assessment like this, that couple is really actually quite in trouble in terms of their relationship, and it being sort of at a place where maybe it's vulnerable to dissolution or divorce. So that was really the point, is there weren't a lot of
Wait, is that
yeah.
Sorry.
Is this news to you?
Joking aside, I must have had an ADHD moment, because I don't remember if you said that this tool is available now or it's about.
It is. Yeah, it was
2025.
Published last year. And so this is out there. This is available to read about. Contact us if you're interested in adopting it. And I just want to take that further and kind of, going through a process of testing the instrument and making sure it's really solid. So that's my path right now.
And you wouldn't mind sharing that with me, would you?
Of course not. Not for a friend, of course.
I am really looking forward to diving into that one. Okay. All right. So Dr. Hargrove, how about your work behind folks with who are neurodivergent?
Yeah. Oh man, I love this topic so much. So I have research out on this. I wrote my dissertation on ADHD, couples, and money, and financial self-efficacy, relationship self-efficacy, trying to figure out, like, we know that there are problems. I've diagrammed all the different ways that ADHD makes money more complicated. ADHD makes relationships more complicated. Relationships and money are automatically more complicated, and ADHD just exacerbates the whole dang thing. And so of course, I'm always interested in the so what. So what can we do to help? Where's the translation? I can read things, and if they are theoretical, I can read them, but I don't read them with the same level of excitement as I do for any kind of research that has a translational angle. And so anytime I'm doing research, I'm always thinking of how is this going to bridge from research and theory to practical, pragmatic, professional, or even just general public information. So very passionate about the work that I do. I used to say, like, if like my neighbor down the street can't understand what I'm working on, then I'm doing something wrong for me to be on track for how I want to exist in the world. So if I'm not able to connect to sort of real people problems in the daily vernacular way, then I'm chasing some of the wrong things. I've lost sight of what I'm here for. So I really want to equip people to make their lives better, to make their relationships healthier. I think if you're helping professional, more information is better. So let me tell you. So the ADHD and money research. I'm always working on more. My upcoming thing that I'm working on is money meanings and kind of our innate understanding of the sort of visceral money meanings that we have and why that is useful for ADHD. Also working on emotional impulsive spending and ADHD spending patterns and what to do about them, and how they affect power dynamics and how they affect relationship dynamics.
When does that come out?
Oh, when I've got the time, when I've got the time. No, I'm chasing it down. I do a lot with ADHD and money. So that I do a lot of presentations about this, about how to be more effective at working with neurodiverse clients. I do a lot of presentations about what you need to know, both on the therapy side and on the financial professional side. And pragmatic stuff like office setup, how to interact. More theoretical stuff like, let me tell you about the executive functions and how they layer and how they develop over time and how you need to assess and where you need to do the interventions and what should the interventions be and in what order. So I really map out how to work on this stuff. But my goal is so many people who are neurodiverse, there's research on this, feel that even though help may exist, it's not for people like me. So there's help, but it's not help that actually helps me or people like me. There's a stigma there, and there's an assumed, and frankly, maybe not wrong, assumed lack of sufficient resources that are actually helpful. And I believe that on, at least in the circles that I have connected with, it's not for lack of desire. I really believe that there are helping professionals everywhere who, all of us, we're either neurodiverse ourselves, somebody in our family, or somebody in our group of friends, or, extended network. It's like statistically, it is there. And so if you're a helping professional, you want to be able to help the people that you care about. You see people as people first, not as problems.
Right.
And so, but there's the so what factor. So what do you do? How can you be helpful? And that's where a lot of the work in financial self-efficacy and communication tactics of professionals to be more effective in working with neurodiverse clients. Like, that's why I do a lot of that work.
Well, we like to conclude our podcast with some actionable tips that you can provide our listeners with. And I want to extend you the opportunity to give us, starting with you, Dr. Hargrove, just a couple actionable tips for folks. Let's do one for someone who's neurodivergent, managing money, let's say specifically ADHD. And then the second tip for you, Dr. Hargrove, would be if you're married to somebody who has ADHD. And then Dr. Ford, be thinking about a tip that you want to share based on your expertise. Dr. Hargrove, go ahead.
Oh man, this is a good one. I would say when you are neurodiverse, odds are good you've had a really rough go of it with finances on the objective angle or the objective side or on the subjective side. So recognizing and accepting that you're going to have emotions about money, roll with it. You can continue to move forward alongside your big emotions. Lots of ways to handle it, but don't let the emotions be the thing that get in the way of you really showing up for yourself and showing up for your financially successful future self. So I like to say, if you're really money avoidant, pretend that your bank accounts are in a meat locker and you're going to have to go into this uncomfortable situation every time you go into that room. So like wear a coat, bring some hot cocoa, have somebody set a timer and force you to leave. Like imagine like I will be uncomfortable. That is just a fact. Now start to equip yourself to be able to cope with those emotions and do it anyway. So I like to say that. I would say for couples, there has got to be, I say this for neurodiverse couples, but I think it's true for everybody, right? Like in general, rising tide floats all ships. So whatever works for ADHD tends to work for a lot of people. There has got to be a good enough financial approach.
Okay.
Like it's not like
Doesn't have to be
what
perfect.
Talladega Nights, right? Like if you're not first, you're last. Like this is not a dichotomous situation. There has got to be like there's A, B, C, D is getting questionable. F is not passing, but like a C is passing. A B is pretty darn good. And
Yeah.
A is like, is that really necessary? But okay, cool. Like I'm on board. But you don't need to have 1,000% as your GPA. Like it doesn't make sense. So there's got to be a good enough approach to finances. Not that everyone is thrilled, but having a level of good enough that we can roll with it is really important for couples because perfection is, first of all, a myth. And second, like law of diminishing returns, because you can have perfect finances and shred your relationship in the process.
That that is really well said, and I have to say, it echoes what I used to share with my parents whenever I brought home my high school report card. Dr. Ford, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, of course. So I think, in terms of couple financial conflict,
Mm-hmm.
it's touted all over as one of the causes of divorce, one of the biggest causes of divorce for couples. So in that way, like we need to take conflict around finances seriously. There's research that shows it is a unique kind of conflict that tends to be more long lasting, intense for couples to navigate. So, like, we need to pay attention as practitioners to this area. But, practical kind of tips, tools, I think, for couples to sort of remember and frame that conflict is a pattern. It is a pattern, it is a dynamic that we're both contributing to in some way, shape, or form. And it's likely keeping us stuck because we're engaging in that pattern and that conflict in the same way. And that's why it becomes longer lasting and more entrenched. So I think one of the things to look at is, try and be self reflective. How am I showing up? How can I be more accountable for my part in this dynamic? I know for me, I show up in a defensive stance a lot. And it comes from the fact that money often makes me quite anxious. And so I have to be accountable for how I might naturally show up in conversations that start as neutral, neutral, kind of like transition into something that's less so and more conflictual. So I think it's about kind of examining that for yourself as a first step. If you find yourself in a conflictual kind of dynamic with a partner around money, like, I gotta examine sort of my own stuff around this to figure out how I'm showing up and how I'm contributing to that.
Boy, you really hit a nerve with me with that example, because we were, as I said, we were shopping for couches, and again, I get it. Normal people want nice couches. I think it's stupid, an enormous waste of money. I grew up in a home where we took out furniture from a home that was destroyed by a tornado and used that furniture. So like our living room couch had plywood underneath the cushions.
Yeah.
And so like, that's just my normal. And I remember like I did I've reflected on these things, Dr. Ford, and I've taken the next step now of like thanking my wife when we got back of like, thank you for tolerating me. I wasn't obnoxious, demonstrative or anything. I'm going to be quieter. I'm going to be tense. And she knows that. She knows it's difficult on me. So that, I think that's helped our relationship, because I never used to talk about it. I used to just angrily pout and silently pout. That's never good in a marriage. Well, thank you both for joining today. Lovely conversation. I'm looking forward to sharing the resources that you shared out with me and our show notes, and then obviously links to the Love and Money Center as well. So be looking for that after you listen to the episode.
Fabulous. It's been so fun. This was like three friends catching up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to have you. Don't leave just yet. Be sure to like and subscribe before you do. And a reminder to visit modernhusbands.com if you're looking for money and home management support in your life. Just click the Our Services button at the top of the page. Again, that's at modernhusbands.com. And many thanks to our co-hosts, our guests, and of course, all of you for joining today.